keyboard somewhere.
And I pull out my gun.
Yeah. Has that ever happened to you? Okay, so it looks like I went live.
All right. Let's
So
check and see if I can hear me.
yeah, and yeah, that's your job.
I can hear me.
Okay, cool. You can hear both of us. Nice. I did it right then.
I
Okay.
should turn the volume down now because it is really unnerving to hear
Oh yeah,
our
yeah.
conversation.
You certainly don't have to do that now. Okay. So hi, anyone who's watching this part right now, they probably aren't, or I guess you'll be getting this for the YouTube VOD at this point. But yeah. So
Welcome. So that should we hit record on the audio file?
yeah, everyone will get to hear the sync process that I've never done before. So we're gonna find out. You know.
Here we go in 3, 2, 1. All right. Oh, and man, if you haven't, the thing that everyone needs to know about me when I record is my metronome is always on. Has that ever happened to you?
No, it certainly has not, because I definitely don't have a metronome, even though I should, you know. Do you have like one of
I'm
the
all
ones that physically rocks?
No,
Or
it's in my software.
oh, okay, I gotcha.
So like I hit record and before we go too off the rails, because I will do that. Welcome everybody. It's Cryptic Puzzle, the video essay slash podcast slash hangout with your two bros. My name's Andy,
And I am Tommy.
and this is our second. It's our second episode. It's like fun to be recording, but I'm also like, I don't know. It's like the second one we're getting into the groove. So if you haven't heard the first episode, I guess really the deal is we're going to talk about and celebrate some games that we love, but also kind of do some deep dives on why we love them, why we enjoy them, like the meat of the mechanics and the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I know what you mean because we did one of these before, but yeah.
Has that ever happened to you?
There was a whole episode. We recorded it. Didn't you know
really?
that? Yeah. You
What
uploaded
game was
it.
it? Tell the listeners.
The game was Sea of Stars, so we're taking a hard right with game styles.
Yes.
We did
today
mention this on the last one, actually. So, yeah.
We did, yeah. And I'm still having trouble recalling how we landed on this one as the second one. Do we remember why we chose this one?
I think it's because us discussing this game. Are we going to name it now, or are we going to keep it in suspense?
Oh yeah, no, it's Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, like it's on screen. I think the title showed up a few times, so not really a surprise. Yeah, I think we were talking about Devil May Cry 5 when we were like, we should do the thing that we're doing right now, but with microphones instead. That we just do for fun to talk to each other. So
yeah, because we do tend to get in really long phone conversations about games because I guess we're both just really opinionated and we both like to talk about games and why we like them and argue about them and things of that nature.
yeah, I don't think it's super, super important for everyone to like understand all of the reasons why they like things. I just think it's interesting to explore those thoughts. So here we are.
Yeah, and like truthfully, we do end up talking about games for like way too long, and it's like, why not just get a microphone and press record?
Yeah, you call me and then we talk for 2 to 2.5 hours about something, and then it's like, all right, well, that was just for us, I guess.
Yeah.
When theoretically,
So, yes.
maybe I want to listen to that again one day, or other people might. That's why we're doing. Ooh, I don't think we acknowledged the audience nearly as much last time. I could be wrong, but
Yeah, no, people love to listen. Speaking of which, check out our Patreon at
oh man, I wish.
Crypt. I'm JK. We don't have a Patreon.
No.
But maybe someday if people love this. So yeah, so Devil May Cry 5, it's like it's kind of a weird one, I think, for the two of us, but maybe we'll just get into like our history with Devil May Cry 5. If you want to go first, Tomas.
Oh, you're gonna make me go first? I thought it would probably make more sense for me to go second.
All right, I'll go first.
I think you should.
So I have never played any Devil May Cry games. Not a single one. That's not for any particular reason. It's not like oh man, it looks like Grand Theft Auto. Like I'm never gonna play a Grand Theft Auto
Wow,
game. That
that
one's
was a good comparison. Very
yeah. Well,
very
like I'm
similar games.
well, but I mean, like no, they're very different in the fact that I'm never gonna play Grand Theft Auto on purpose because it's not my vibe at all. Whereas like Devil May Cry, I never played it not because like oh it's not my vibe or I don't think I would like it. I just haven't for some reason. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I picked up this one because I'm always looking. I love like hack and slashy action RPG adventure game. Like I love this style of game. And when I was kind of poking around like at what's similar to like what I've been playing and what I'm looking at next, it's just sort of unanimously everyone's like, yeah, this is one of the best action games of all time. So I was like, yeah, I mean, why not go for it? And that's the beginning and the end of my history with Devil May Cry.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm glad you landed on the one of the best action games of all time because I would say this is the best Devil May Cry game, and that this is certainly at least like a top 5 all time. It's probably my top 3, at least for action games kind of thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
I have been playing Devil May Cry since around the time 3 came out initially. So 3 came out in 2005, I'm pretty sure. And
Wow.
it was PS2 era. So the year after that, the special edition came out, which Devil May Cry 3 is technically the earliest in the timeline. It's a prequel to 1, and no one actually knows where 2 is in the timeline because they, like, basically canonically disavow that game at this point. It just doesn't have anything to do with anything because that game's terrible.
Yeah, isn't it like unanimously considered just an awful game?
Yeah, it's a terrible game. It's not even like, oh, it's like Devil May Cry 1 but worse. It's just like, no, it's a different game and it's a bad difference. And then Devil May Cry 3 basically invented like what this franchise was going to feel like combat-wise. So, like if you went back to play 3 after having played 5, which I'm going to recommend that you do and we'll talk about why later.
Cool.
Yeah, like the way that Dante jumps and you doing that and switching weapons at the speed that you can because like Devil May Cry 1 you literally had to like pause the game to switch weapons.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
Yeah. Devil May Cry 3 was limited mostly by technical like memory limitations of the PS2. So Devil May Cry 3 had one style at a time and no more
Okay.
than 2 melee weapons or 2 guns at a time because they literally didn't have the memory to make it work.
Wow.
So, so that's why some future releases of the game have changed some things.
You know, it's pretty weird. I feel like this is maybe an odd comparison, but you saying that like the first one was good and then the second one was like a total oddball and then the third one was pretty much a return to what made it great. I feel like they did the really early Nintendo thing that happened with like Zelda and Mario and Metroid where like the first one was a banger, the second one was totally weird, and then the third one was like, "Hey, we made it great again, but also better."
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I would say that 3 is a way better game than 1 is. I think
Yeah.
1 is fun. And it's interesting because it was a lot of design history on the only reason why Devil May Cry exists is because of it was a Resident Evil 4 build where they had shooting something that was airborne kept it juggling in the air. And they were like,
Oh,
"Oh,
nice.
that seems like a fun little haha thing." And then they made Devil May Cry. So Devil May Cry was like a weird offshoot of an RE4 prototype, which if you ever played either of the RE4s is literally nothing like Devil May Cry
No.
at all,
No, not
other
even a
than
little.
maybe some thematic choices because it's made by the same developer, Capcom. But yeah, anyway, I'm just continuing to ramble about the past of these games, which I guess I really don't need to. Devil May Cry 4 came out in 2009 and introduces one of our characters that we get to in this game, Nero. You split
Nice.
the game between Nero and Dante, which at the time people were not a huge fan of. They just wanted to play as Dante. And also Nero's kind of a baby in that game. He's not super interesting, so people ended up being kind of justified.
Was he like also not fun to play? Was that part of it, or was it mostly just that people were like, "I want the Dante experience"?
He's fun to play, but Nero in 5 is way more fun to play, and it's still functionally still Nero's base kit from 4, but plus like the Devil Breaker stuff and everything else
Cool.
mixes it up. Whereas Dante's kit was just flat out better, and he has way more options. And
Yeah.
there's not as good of compensation of kind of leveling out the characters as I feel like there is in 5 that has 3 playable characters. Also,
And
you
also
go through.
Dante is literally the coolest.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, correct. I'm glad you feel that way with this being your first game. So,
he's the coolest.
and also going through that game as Dante is you play through the game as Nero, a thing happens, then you pretty much just play Nero's missions in reverse as Dante, and then there's like a couple things that happen as the end that you play as Nero.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's not great. So Devil May Cry 4 has really fun combat, but it doesn't have nearly as good like consistency and pacing and design as 5 does, which is like they basically had all the time in the world to make this because Devil May Cry 5 came out in 2019. It is about to turn 5 years
Crazy.
old, which is weird. And the reason why there was such a giant gap in there is that 3 years after Devil May Cry 4 came out, a reboot, literally called DMC with the M lowercase for some reason. A complete reboot made by, I always screw it up. It's not Team Ninja, it's Ninja Theory, I think, or maybe I have that backwards. One of those developers actually made the game, which is a competent action game that also just completely ruins all the characters. Like the original release of that game, Virgil wears a fedora most of the time. And that was so hilariously mocked that when the definitive edition of that game came out, they patched it out and didn't say anything.
They patched out his fedora.
They did. They patched out his fedora because of how much he got ridiculed. And that game has like some cool ideas and I think like really interesting level design actually. But it's just not nearly as fun in the combat department, and all the characters suck and are bad, and the story really sucks and it's bad. Not in the like, aha, we tried to make a cheesy, wacky wahoo adventure like the other games. Like it was very self serious, but like bad. So it
So
doesn't
wait,
work.
so let me get this straight because I'm not sure if it was my confusion or not. So a DMC is a reboot, not like a remake of the first one. It's like sort of a
Complete
hey, we're
reboot. Yeah. Have you ever
okay. So
seen even a screenshot of what that game looks like or what Dante looks like?
no, should I look it up?
Yes, you should, because when I say it's like, oh, it's a it's not like, oh, they tried to just start it over. It's no, they tried to like make a like an edgy aughts thing because they thought it would appeal more to a Western audience, and they were super not correct.
So they pulled a Sonic 06 move, is kind of what it's sounding like.
Kinda. Except this, like, the game actually works and like is functional, and you can play it, and it. I've played that game more than once. It's not a
What are you
bad
trying to
game.
say about Sonic 06, bro?
Sonic 06 is a terrible game. That's why. And so is almost all 3D Sonic. We're not going to get into that. We'll save that for another time. Anyway,
Oh, but I want to. I actually have seen screenshots of it. Now that I look up the picture of his edgy red jacket, I'm like, oh, I have seen this mocked somewhere. I don't recall where,
yeah.
but somewhere.
Probably by people who just don't really like it very much. It probably gets more hate than it should in terms of like its overall quality as a game, because it's not a terrible game, but like man does it destroy most of what Devil May Cry is. And so it wasn't until like 2017 or 2018, after a number of times that the voice actors had like accidentally given away that they were working on something related to Devil May Cry, so it kind of leaked that it was probably going to exist. They announced it at like E3 or something, and people lost their minds because like this shot that's happening on my screen right now and probably on stream right now was pretty much how they introduced it, and then ended on the Devil May Cry on the van. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was real good, and
People were hyped.
yeah, because they're like, not only is it like I'm getting like a good Devil May Cry game. It's like I'm getting a legitimate follow up that's had all this time. So yeah,
Yeah.
and boy howdy, did they nail it. Anyways, that is my understanding and history of the franchise. I've been playing it for the better part of the last 20 years, so it's near and dear to my heart. I really, really, really love Devil May Cry 3. I wanted a sequel to 4 because it was fine, but needed like more time in the oven or something. I don't really know. But yeah, so I rambled for a
That's
long time. That's what
No,
I
it's
do.
good. It honestly it helped me get like a clearer picture of the history of the series and everything. I knew that people were hyped about 5 when it came out because I knew there was a big gap between 4 and 5, but I did not fully recall the reboot. Um, yeah, the Sonic 06 style reboot
I
of DMC.
I genuinely think that if that game had not been so maligned for what it did to the characters, that 5 never would have happened.
Yeah,
If
well,
it
I
was
just
received
think
like okay, it would have just faded into the distance, and it franchise never would have come back. I don't think so.
yeah. Well, it really speaks to I think like when you take a super beloved character and alter them, I feel like that's such a risky move. Like that has to be handled with I don't know, a lot of intelligence and a lot of thought. Like if you compare I don't know, it feels like extreme, but if you compare like Kratos's remake as a character, like that was such a well thought out and interesting thing. But to take Dante, someone who even like as someone who hasn't played the games knows that that's like a hugely beloved character, and like let's just edgeify him and make him an edge lord was like speaks to like the type of outrage you're gonna get if you do something like that.
I want you to remember this moment that you just brought up, the Edgify and blah blah blah. I want you to keep this in
Okay.
your head because I want to
All
bring
right.
it back up later when we start to talk about the weapons and when we
Foreshadow.
get to Dr. Faust.
4 5 shadowing.
Any, yeah,
Is that too
that's,
much?
I don't know. I mean, I did pretty much just say that we should bring it up because I don't want to ruin it yet. It'll be better
Wait,
later.
did you say about the hat, Doctor something?
Yeah, Dr. Faust. That's what it's
Yes.
called.
Okay, it is the hat.
Yeah, the hat. He had to double check.
Nice. Nice. Cool, man. So I guess if you've never played this game and you're watching, like, hopefully you're getting a good vibe for what it is. But like, it's honestly just it's really just like the hack and slash action adventure game. With the whole, and this is maybe a little bit spoilery, but it has the I want to say platinum games, but like maybe that isn't the right term. It has like the sort of loop built in where they want you to like the Resident Evil 4 remake, like replay the heck out of this game and like just play it to death and score chase. It's like an action game, but with that uniquely sort of built into it as well,
Yeah,
right?
these games say I hear like spectacle fighter or stylish action. I really like stylish action a lot.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's funny that you mentioned the platinum games thing because Devil May Cry 1 was made by why am I blanking? By Hideki Kamiya, I believe, was on the team.
Hmm.
And then left to eventually join Clover Studios, which became Platinum Games, who made Bayonetta.
Okay.
So there
Yes.
are Devil May Cry bosses and lines in Bayonetta because he worked on Devil May Cry 1. So quite literally, the DNA of Platinum action games actually comes directly from Devil May Cry, which is
Okay,
funny.
cool. I
Yeah,
I thought that there was a an explicit link there, but as I
there
was
is.
saying it, I
Yeah.
was like, I think it's considered sort of a Platinum Games, like that style of game. Um, yeah, and like honestly, I feel like playing this game and expecting like kind of going in with just no expectations and being like, I'm gonna have a good time and have fun. I think the thing that struck me that was a really pleasant surprise is that this game kind of feels more like a traditional video game in the sense that like there are levels and acts to just play through if you know what I'm getting at.
Yep. Yeah, at the very old school like 8 and 16-bit era level structure. It is
Yeah,
literally
and
called
like
Mission 1, 2, 3, 4. Like that's what it is.
Yeah. And I forgot how retro that feels. Like, to be honest, it was really refreshing because I feel like now it can grow a little bit tiresome when every game needs to be the next God of War 2018 open world adventure with a crazy narrative and blah, blah, blah. Like, I love that this game is immediately like, yeah, no, we're just going to make a super fun level based action game. Like, really own that. I find so refreshing about this game, you know?
Yeah.
Like, for real. I was like, man, it's so good to just be playing a video game, just playing a video game. Like, I'm beating up guys, I'm slashing dudes, I'm playing a video game.
Yeah. So I guess how do we want to start with just talking about how this game opens, or do we want to talk about mechanics? What are we doing? Because I don't listen. We don't have to really spend a ton of time on the story, but if you want me to reveal like the number of, I don't want to talk about every reference and stuff this game makes because we'd be here for a very long time. But a couple of like the huge fan service pop off things that you
Yeah.
having never played any of the other ones before, when you were like, this game's really cool, I was like, Andy, you literally don't even know like 60% of why everyone really loves this game.
Yeah. Well, let's say this too about the story. If you haven't played this game, like, the story is neat and it's fun. It's probably not why you're there.
No.
Um, we're gonna do spoilers, but I think that the experience is fun. And I mean, if you're really spoiler averse, you can probably duck out, but you're probably safe because a lot of it is just campy fun goodness. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, we
just go
can
play
kind of
this
just go
game
through the beats.
regardless. Yeah, yeah, I agree. So we're actually seeing a prelude story for anyone watching the video thing right now, where Nero, our character who is introduced to us in 4, another white-haired man with a lot of crazy abilities and super strength, and he had a demon arm that he could use to basically like stand grab people from a distance. Oh yeah, also Dante's half demon. And I don't even know if you knew that.
I think they say it somewhere.
They probably say it at multiple points in this game because they talk about Sparta and blah blah blah. But yeah, anyways, yeah, your protagonists in this game are half demon people except for V, who's just a dude with a book and some demon helpers. Yeah,
And it kind of opens with like the sort of central conflict is that there's like a big creepy demon tree that opens in like the center of a city, and it's like threatening to destroy the world, right?
yes, yeah, the Clyphoth,
Yeah.
Cliphoth, Clyphoth. I believe it's from
Yeah.
some sort of Nordic. I assume that's what that name seems like. I don't really know though. Anyway, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's eating people and drinking their blood, and it's bringing them up to this big demon guy Urizen, who's the new demon king apparently, and people are like, oh
Yep.
man, it's not good. We got to stop that. It's bad, which
Yeah,
makes
like,
sense.
literally it's like, yeah, it's bad. Let's go fight the
Yeah,
guy.
let's go kill it.
So you run up as Nero into the Clyphoth, and you sort of like join Dante in battle, but you both sort of get your butt kicked.
Oh yeah,
uh, by Urizen. And then does it cut back to like, and I bet you're wondering how we got here, or does it go to the next part? I
I
don't
think
remember.
that's literally how we get to this cutscene. Is it flashes back to like
Yeah.
why? Because when you show up, Nero also only has one arm, because the cutscene that we just saw, where some guy who no one knows what it is in a cloak rips his arm off of his body and then turns it into the Yamato or the Yamato. I don't know how you actually pronounce it, which is Virgil's weapon, and then he uses it much like Virgil would do. And like, oh, I don't know who this is. It's a mystery, man. No idea.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much the central opening. I don't, to be honest, I don't really remember the beats too well. What happens next?
There's really not a whole lot other than them like fighting their way up and occasionally getting bopped down. Like you fight
Yeah.
Goliath as Nero early on. V shows up and stabs him with his cane because he can kill demons, whereas his little demon friends can't actually kill a demon, but they can smack him around a bit for him to do the
Yep.
finishing move, which is basically how his entire set of mechanics works. But we'll get there eventually. Then it flashes back to how Dante got to the prologue fight where you both
Yes.
lose. And
Yep.
then Yeah, and then they keep going further up after they get batted down that one time. Then it's all forward
Yeah.
motion in the story, basically.
Yeah, so really there's like a lot of cityscapes and some like demonic sort of hellscapes that you fight your way through, but really it's like a very traditional level design with like secrets to find, and there's even like the cool little missions where you line up the little circle jams, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that's a more in-depth mechanic than like they were in the original games, where it would literally be like you'd find a specific spot that would have a thing nearby, and if you interacted with it, it would take you into the secret mission. Whereas this one
Yeah.
had a little bit more. It's not quite a puzzle, but it's a puzzle, you know. So
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of really the structure of how you're making your way to Urizen, the Demon King or Demon Lord, or he's big demon guy. He's real scary.
big demon man. Yeah, that's pretty much how it
That's
goes.
Yeah, and I would say really the overall structure of this game really is mostly like three acts where like the first act is sort of them teaching you how to play as Nero. The second act is them interspersing and sprinkling in V and sort of introducing the mystery of V a little bit. And then I feel like the third act is really when you get to play as Dante and the story takes off.
Yeah, pretty much from the moment that you get control of Dante, the game hands you a whole lot of kit to learn too. On top of that, Dante, as I was mentioning in Devil May Cry 3, introduced styles, which basically we'll just talk about styles right now. That's fine
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
cool. So there's four styles that Dante can use, and you switch them with the D-pad on a controller. So there's Trickster, which allows you to have some additional movement techniques. So you can get a jump and a double jump normally, but Trickster allows you to have some air dashes and cool other movement things that you can use in combos. There's Swordmaster, which I use like 90% of the time. I feel like you're the
Yep.
same way, Andy.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, where all of the melee weapons gets additional stuff, basically all new moves, and most of those moves are really, really good. So pretty decent to have that around. There's Royal Guard, which allows you can technically block stuff, which will reduce the amount of damage that you take. But if you perfectly block them, so they call them like just guards, like because on the frame it's some just in time, whatever it is. So anyway, on the just frame, you will get like a huge amount of building up a meter, and there's also a good timing for a release, which will take all that built up stuff you blocked and parried and just launch it back at the enemy. And if you fill that bar up, you can literally like delete some bosses. Is how much damage that does. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So, and then Gunslinger, which gives extra moves, usually for like greater area of effect kinds of things, rather than just the regular like I shot the bullet or the missile kind of things that most of the weapons do, with the exception of Dr. Faust, which is it's a magical hat that gives Dante a long scarf, and by hat I mean it's a cowboy hat.
Yep.
And when he puts it on for the very first time, he does a straight up Michael Jackson dance.
Which was like the most hype moment of this whole game for me. I
It's
loved it.
really good. And the reason, okay, remember I told you you need to remember the blah, 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 edgy DMC Dante?
Yep.
One of the guys from whichever company, Ninja Theory, I'm just picking them this time. I don't know if it's right. He was quoted as saying part of what they were doing was that they didn't want people to think of like Dante as this goofy whatever it is the way that they did previously. They wanted to have people to take it more seriously because Dante was a gay cowboy, is how he was described by this man. So I genuinely think the reason that Dr. Faust is just a cowboy hat and then he does a Michael Jackson dance is in direct response to that comment.
That's hilarious.
It's what
That
it feels.
is
It's
so
what it
awesome.
feels like. I don't know if it's true, but you know, it
It's
seems
a
like
good
it is.
conspiracy theory, I
Yeah,
think.
it seems like it is. Anyway, there you go. I just wanted to also drop that little piece of franchise history that you probably didn't know. So
That's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's Dante. I feel like the first thing, and like I don't know if it's, as someone who's new to the game, I don't know if it's a gripe or I love it. I'm not sure, but I think it's interesting to get into is I feel like the way that they introduce the combat to you is really smart, but I don't know if it was the smartest choice to have three characters. Cuz like I really like playing as Nero. I really like playing as V, and I love playing as Dante. Like I love playing as all three of them. But like, I started the game. I felt like I was getting a handle on Nero. I was playing like in normal mode, and as soon as I felt like I kind of understood the mechanics, they threw V at me, and you have something brand new to learn. Um, and like he's great to play, and I felt like I learned his in time, but I don't know, the pacing was a little tough for me. Like I said, when I hit Dante, I was like, the game took off. I'm way into it now, but like I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
So I obviously feel a little bit differently because I have played the other games before, so I already
Hmm.
had a handle on like the core of Dante's moveset. It's not all
Yeah.
exactly the same. There's new weapons and blah blah blah, but like what he does and how you should probably play him against certain enemy types and yada yada yada. I've already done that for Devil May Cry 3 and 4.
Right.
And Nero I played in 4, and the core of his kit, with the exception of the Devil Breaker, is all still here. He had just the one pistol, just the Red Queen for the sword, his charge shots, and a Devil Arm that he could use to grab people or bring himself closer to big guys who he can't pick up, or do like cool finisher moves on. So that's the arm that gets ripped off in the beginning, which is why
Yep.
he has the robot arm now, just for some general clarity. As if someone's like, how does he have a robot arm or a devil arm? It's both. The answer's both.
Yeah, and the
But
devil arm or the robot arm is really cool. Like we didn't even really touch on it, but they if you use circle, which is like an entire dedicated button for your devil breaker arm, there's like a huge like an insane amount of variety of weapons that you can attach to that, and you can find them throughout the levels, but you can also purchase them in between missions and stuff. And like I feel like that alone when I started this game was like, oh man, this game has so much more complexity than any other action game I've ever played, and I didn't even get to the other two characters yet.
yeah, that's what these games have been for like a long time, which is why people wanted another one of these, because there hadn't been a Devil May Cry game since 2009. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, well, there's other good action games out there. Bayonetta exists, but also Bayonetta 2 took forever to come out, and Nintendo had to pay for it, and same with 3 eventually.
Right.
But yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just
So
find it
that
interesting that you're feeling these ways. Just like, yeah, man, that's what the series has been for so long now. It's just that
no,
good, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
right. No, I loved that. Like I was really blown away by just what the Devil Breaker was. Like and I was like, man, I feel like I have so much to learn about A, what all of them are, but B, like there's specific ins and outs of like you can charge them up for a ton of damage, but if you get hit, they'll break and stuff like that. So it's just like I don't know, it's such an interesting mechanic they've implemented with like a mountain of depth behind it, you know?
Yeah, there's things from you can temporarily slow down time in a limited area to you have a
Yep.
better grab attack that can grab bigger enemies. When you have that specific Devil Breaker on, in addition to the like whip attacks it has, I think it's Rawhide.
Yep.
There's the Gerbera and the other variant that are both like a move that can damage enemies to like bop them out of the way, kind of, but it's also like a movement mechanic. On top of that, you can just
Right.
use it as an extra jump pretty much, and then rock it down to the ground super fast if you really want to. So yeah, there's a ton of stuff baked in there, and so the addition of the Devil Breaker for Nero in terms of variety, which is really what he needed, because like he has some decent combos and stuff with just the Red Queen and being able to charge up the Blue Rose for charge shots and stuff, to keep enemies in the air and blah blah blah, whatever it is you're gonna do with it, but obviously that's nothing compared to Dante having 4 swappable styles and 4 swords and 4 guns that he can have eventually equipped simultaneously. So
Yeah. And like I think that it really I think gets to the heart of the series because I feel like if there's anything Devil May Cry is about, it's about the insane the insanely high skill ceiling and the insane potential of what you can actually do. Um So I think like the Devil Breaker directly does that for Nero. It introduces a whole level of stuff that you can do to just destroy enemies and rack up points.
I have a question. Have you
Yeah.
ever watched a combo video for any Devil May Cry game?
Yeah, we watched some of 5 together.
Did we? Oh,
Yeah,
we
we did.
did. Yes, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, you look at it, you go, I don't even know what he's doing with his hands.
It's
I
nuts.
didn't even
It's
know you
totally
could do that. Is like what most of it is. Yeah, because people will
yeah.
do like there's a skill they call enemy step that allows you to jump off an enemy's head, and there's attacks
Yep.
that will slam you down to the ground. So if you have the right timing, you can theoretically just chain back and forth between those two with certain attacks. So you'll see someone just like get out of his head and be like, yeah, and just do a whole bunch of damage. And you're like,
Yeah.
what just happened? He just like freaked out there in the air for a second, and the enemy died. It's like, yeah, because he was really good at the game.
Yeah, it's insane. So yeah, so I mean, it makes sense then that you would understand the vocabulary of the games a little bit more, and therefore would be fine with them introducing V and like all of the interchanging mechanics.
Yeah,
Um,
because like for me, V was the new thing. Like the Devil Breaker
right,
was new, but it was more like, oh, here's the cool new thing that Nero can do in this game, which
right.
would be like Dante's additional weapons in the other games. And whereas V was like, okay, you are a dude who can't hurt the demons, but you have demon helpers that you command to do stuff because you're just a
Yeah.
dude with some magic or something.
Yeah, and V is super cool because his whole deal, it's almost like he's a ranged character in a sense because you can command your demons to attack enemies from far. Um, but then you have to hit them with your cane. But I love that you can zip to the enemies with the cane. That feels so unbelievably cool every time you do it.
Yeah, it feels just like a certain other teleport that another character has who they just aren't very forthcoming about how he's going to be in the game, but they instead just drop a bunch of like hilarious, unbelievable bomb hints of who V really is and why he is the way he is.
So wait, so is that teleport move that teleport move existed with that character in other games? That was like a direct obvious reference?
Well, V is a new character for this universe in this game.
Yeah. No, no, but I'm saying the teleport move was everybody like, "Oh, I know that teleport move from the other character
If you're
from
like
other
me and
games."
played this series for this long, yes.
Okay, cool.
And then
I
also
didn't know
his
that.
name is V.
Well, right.
And also when he walks up to Dante in the middle of the game when they have the flashback and he's like, how did you come across this whole thing? And he was like, yeah, I found this powerful demon who was like your reason to live, which I was like, okay, your reason, okay, got it. And then the camera zooms in on his mouth and begins to fade to black as he mouths Virgil very obviously. It's
Hilarious.
really funny. It's just like, okay, so it's for all the people who are paying attention for that stuff, it's like, all right, we get it. Okay, we're gonna get there. For anyone else, they might be like, I don't understand. Who's this? What is he talking about? Which is what you were
Yeah.
doing because you had no idea.
I had no clue. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I just thought it was silly. I mean, I will say that was like the real pleasant surprise for me was like I was not expecting to vibe so hard with the characters and the story, but like this game is camp cranked up to like 12,000
Oh
in the
yeah.
best way.
The reason why everything works is because there is
Your reason why everything works?
yeah. The joke they made and that I made about the
And
yeah,
that I made after you made it right
Yeah, and
now.
then the
And I'll
game made
probably
it
make it again.
probably. Um, is that there is no subtlety
Yeah.
because there doesn't need to be
Right.
because
It's like that's the whole
the whole thing is that everything is insane the entire time, and you would think that would get tiring, but it's so good that it's not even remotely tiring. You're like, I want to see more. Yeah, look at what's happening on screen right now.
yeah.
A demon panther man just hit a big other demon guy, and he's gonna stab this demon in the head. He's gonna die.
Yeah.
Spoilers for the next like 10 seconds. But anyway,
In case you didn't see that coming based on what's happening.
yeah, it should be pretty obvious again. Like, yeah, it's there's no subtlety like at all.
No.
Like I'm
No.
trying to think like there's good character moments in this entire thing. Like they pretty much like save Nero's character from how people like disliked him in 4. He's much more of like an actual individual character instead of just like a guy who's there for you to play him as a character. Which is pretty much what he felt like in 4. Even though he's
Yeah.
technically blah 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 super connected. Also, Nero is Virgil's son. We find that out, even though everyone already thought that since the first time they showed Nero on screen ever. Because how
Yep.
many dudes with white hair are swinging a big sword killing demons?
2.
Well, 3.
3. Does Dante have white hair too?
Yeah,
3.
yeah,
Nailed it.
yeah. Nailed it.
First try.
Yep. Anyway,
Yeah. I don't remember what
how did
my
we get
team
here? Yeah, I don't remember how we got here.
Wait.
V range character. Yeah.
It
Teleport.
Was
It was the
over-the-top
teleport.
camp.
Yeah, and the overtop. Yeah. We can go back to V. You were talking about V.
Yeah. Well, it's just like I feel like all of the characters and the vibe in this game are great. I particularly love, I don't remember her name now, but Nero's like partner lady with the van.
Oh, Nico. Yeah.
Yeah, Nico. She's awesome.
Yeah, she talks about how her grandmother is the one who made Ebony and Ivory, Dante's pistols, and
Oh
a bunch of
yeah,
his
yep.
weapons in the past, which is true. And also her father was one of the bad guys in 4, who was an
Really?
evil scientist man as part of the like religious cult that worshipped Sparta, but was actually trying to do evil things with the sword. So that's
Wow.
how the sword is in Nero's arm because he took it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know what to say except for heaping praise, but like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of games that do the tongue in cheek, making fun of how campy they are thing, like it can be tiresome, but it can also be like, well, why would I like this game if all you're doing is making fun of all the things you're established? I feel like this game just has such a deep lore and really great characterization and like a really fleshed out, interesting world, and it makes fun of how silly it is at every turn. Like I don't think ever played a game that has struck a balance quite that well.
I don't know that I would even say it makes fun of itself. I think that it at no point takes itself too seriously
Yeah,
ever.
right.
But trying to think if there's a better way to phrase it. It would sooner lean in to the bit than it would fight the bit. Like if
Right.
someone's like, "Oh, you're gonna do this," it would be like, "Oh yeah, well I'm gonna chug 3 beers at the same time now."
Yeah,
You
it's
know, I
kind of
don't know.
like that thing that you said one time that I think it was the rule of cool. Is
Yeah,
that right?
absolutely. Why
It's
is this
like
this way? Don't worry about it.
right. It's like not only is it the rule of cool, but it's they kind of just openly broadcast like, yeah, the whole game is the rule of cool. Like we did it because this demon looks cool and he's fun to fight and that's it. So get over it.
Yeah, someone came up with a sweet design. It was like, I bet you'd have some really cool attacks. And someone was like, I bet you could dodge those attacks in this cool way and fight back against him. And they're like,
Yeah.
yeah, start working on it right now.
Yeah, so not that it makes fun of itself, but in that sense it sort of wears it on its sleeve that like, yeah, we're going to be silly and over the top and like you can be in on the joke with us. And
Yeah,
I am.
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't ever have to like look into the camera and wink and go, haha, wasn't that ridiculous? Ha ha ha. It's just like,
Yeah,
no,
it does though.
I don't think it does. I think it just does the ridiculous things over and over again in a giant string. And then it's like,
Dante
all right,
does
we
a
get it.
Michael Jackson dance with a hat.
Right.
Isn't that the most wink in the camera thing the whole game does?
But I don't think that's a wink at all. I think that's literally just you would expect Dante to do that because that's who his character has always been. Which is why
I guess so.
I don't think that's a wink at all. I think that's just Dante being Dante. He got a cool
Yeah.
weapon and he had to show it off. Which
It
he
was
does
for
with all
me,
the other weapons as well. Remember
that's
that.
true.
Yes.
Yeah, for me that was like them like unveiling the curtain of like yeah, we know how silly this whole game is. It was like we are in on the joke too, like welcome. We are openly broadcasting how silly all of this is to me, you know?
There is a pretty popular clip on the internet of a dude who basically went to this game without ever realizing any of those things at any point, and it gets to him getting Dr. Faust and that scene playing and him just throwing the controller on his desk and walking away from his stream because he couldn't believe what was happening. He's like, I just don't get this. I don't understand. So like, yeah, I get there are people like that, I suppose, but like I can't fathom seeing that and being like, yeah, I think this game's supposed to be serious the whole time.
Oh yeah, no. It definitely no, but that's like the big moment, you know, the
Yeah.
biggest of all of them. Ah, so great.
Yeah,
Um,
it's really good. The presentation's
yeah.
fantastic. I don't know if the audio listeners alone are really going to get a vibe for what this game like feels like to play versus those watching it. But should we take a crack at it? I don't know if that's like if we're trying to figure out what we like and don't like about things. Do we have to try
Yeah,
this live? Oh man.
it's unbelievably polished. Just
Oh,
like flat out.
Oh yeah. So yeah, even if we just start with the way that it looks. So this was Capcom's been using the RE engine as they call it, which I assume was mostly based on the fact that it's Resident Evil and they used it for Resident Evil 7 and 8 and 4 remake and blah blah blah. They basically built this crazy awesome in-house engine that looks good and runs great on like everything. The characters' faces and animations are so detailed and expressive and makes everyone's ridiculously animated everything like really come to life. Like they look like people, which in a game this cartoony like doesn't really seem to make sense. But like stylistically people are like normal human proportioned. They're not like weird super deformed. They're just fighting horrible monster things. But like the level of like, so there was a cutscene transition that I think's about to happen on stream. So that's probably not a good one. But I don't know if you ever noticed this. They made different animations for if your character was like running really fast or if in the middle of an attack, maybe not in the middle of an attack, or like jumping in, whatever it is, for cutscene transitions where you cross the like trigger barrier, like, oh, I made it this far, now cutscene's gonna play. Depending on what action your character was doing, it will change the way that they enter the frame.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
Yes, like in a cutscene animation, not like oh they just had the animation play. It's like no, they went out of their way to make sure that it made sense that the character entered the frame for the cutscene, which is
Wow.
insane.
Yeah. It definitely like I was pretty struck even like in the era of AAA games look beautiful and amazing and run beautiful and amazing. I was still like I can't believe how good this game looks and plays and feels overall. It's unreal.
Oh yeah, this is where anyone with the like frame rate arguments, like this game runs at minimum 60, I think even on like the PS4 era. Like you played the PS5 version, which I know runs I think even in its like quality mode, I think at 60 frames per second. I might be wrong about that. But yeah, you should play this game at the maximum frame rate possible because it won't eat your inputs as much. That's how that works.
Yeah.
I play it on PC and I have my giant my rig isn't like super new or crazy now, like the GPU and it's 3 years old, but this game came out 5 years ago. So I can very easily run this game at 4K at 120 frames per second. And that's awesome. And it looks and it feels, I almost swore, really good.
Yeah, it looks great, and like the enemies just look like the vibe that it's just like the Devil May Cry vibe, you know. Like it's campy demons. They look anime and they look amazing. Everything is just like
Yeah, look
unbelievably
at this.
stellar to
Look at
look at.
this.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, like I don't know. I don't know what to say except for praise. Everything in this game looks amazing, and the art direction is really great. I feel like it's a great Halloween game, which is when I played it originally was October, and I was like, yeah, this is the vibe for
Oh,
sure.
I didn't realize that. Gotcha.
Yeah, it was great timing when I played it last October.
Nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good. Yeah, you're fighting demons. I guess what else is there really to say? Because like I'm with you on just like trying to heap praise on like I think we've talked at least a little bit. And I don't know if we've really harped on it on here because Sea of Stars is not like an execution requiring game. You pick stuff in menus for like most of it. So
Right.
in terms of games that require you to move around and stuff, I am a button check type of person. Where if I pick up a thing that expects me to like jump around or swing a whatever it is, and I pick it up, and in the first 15 seconds I don't go, this feels great. I probably don't want to play that video game like literally at all.
Yeah,
Because there's way
that
too
is
many
one.
games that pass the button check now.
Yeah, you and I are, as much as we differ on a lot of games, that is one thing that you and I very much have in common with playing games is like if a game feels good to play, I am way more likely to play it. It's just like a minimum requirement. And maybe that's like a Nintendo thing. That's my theory. Like I've just played mostly Nintendo games, and that feels like such a huge focus of so many of their games. I don't know. But we definitely, this game feels unbelievably good all of the time.
Yeah, you jump super high in the air, but the jump still feels weighty. Like he literally
Yeah.
is just a strong guy who can jump that high because he has super strength because he's half demon, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't. It's not like, oh, he's flying now, even though there's like literal ways to fly. But like shooting your gun will keep you suspended in the air too. So like there's ways to defy gravity, but like even just the jump makes sense. They do all kinds of other crazy, magical, reality breaking, supernatural nonsense. But somehow the like physics of what's happening, despite being all anime nonsense and explosions like what's happening right now, it all feels like believable in a weird way. Like, yeah, if a guy was strong enough to swing a sword that big, what would it be like?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're saying. It just feels like tactile in a way that makes sense. It doesn't feel outlandish.
Yes, when you do attacks, they come out immediately. There's very little like wind up to anything, so they come out quickly. Everything feels very responsive. There is a very almost fighting game style dedication to that startup active frames for an attack, the actual hitbox of where you're swinging, and then recovery from it, because all of those affect your ability to combo one thing into another or divide your attention between enemies if you need to. So it's to me it's taking those cool sensibilities about like fighting games and the way that they approach combat and then simplifying them down to be a little bit less like, I don't want to be doing quarter circles and 720s to do all my specials. But like there's even 360s in this for some moves. Rotate the
Yeah.
stick around once and hit this button while locked onto an enemy and holding forward. That's a thing for like 4 or 5 different moves.
Yeah, it definitely feels very much like it has the DNA of a fighting game. For better or for worse. Mostly for better, but this is where like I start to get into the like I don't love it as much as you part. Uh but before we do we want to just kind of talk about how the story wraps up and then like the post game stuff that's the meat of it?
Yeah, let's do that because that'll probably be the most interesting part to actually delve into. So everyone fights their way up to Urizen, and then Dante fights him after he eats the fruit from the Qliphoth that makes him super strong, and he goes, "Now I am power, power, power." He says that word a lot, like some other character whose name starts with V, who's not V in this franchise. And then you, at some point, Dante absorbed both his sword Rebellion and his father's sword Sparta into himself and made a new devil sword Dante and got a new devil trigger form because you can turn into a demon temporarily as part of one of the mechanics, which is super cool. Nero can't at first, but Dante can. And V technically has a devil trigger where he summons Nightmare. Oh, here's another thing that you would have never realized. Another reason why it's very obvious to think that V has a Virgil connection is so Shadow, the Panther, is a Devil May Cry 1 enemy.
I think I did know that actually. I
Okay.
don't know where, but I knew that he was, and I think
Griffin,
aren't all three?
yes.
Isn't they're
Griffin
all
is
three?
a Devil May Cry 1 boss, and
Yep.
Nightmare is also a Devil May Cry 1 boss.
Yeah, I think I did know that.
All the Angelo type enemies are a reference to Virgil is enslaved by the Demon King Mundus in the first game and fights you as a dude called Nelo Angelo like 3 times. And at the end of the third time, he takes his helmet off, and there's a moment where there's like a Dante beats him and he sees like a picture of his family and it says like blah blah Virgil. So that's like so that was like family for him. That's pretty much as much as we know about Virgil in Devil May Cry 1 is that at some point he apparently got enslaved by Mundus and then Devil May Cry 3 goes back in time. Anyway, but yeah, the continuous callbacks to the previous games like all over the place. Again, like if you're like me and you played the games, it's like okay, it's not hiding it a little bit. Like I said,
Right. Yeah.
there's no subtlety in this game, which is fine. I think
Yeah.
it works.
So yeah. So then V becomes Virgil. How does he become Virgil again?
So the reason why Virgil steals Nero's arm in the first place is to get his cool katana back that can open up portals and stuff. Because it is said to have the ability to cleave man from demon. So he uses it to split his human and demon halves. The demon half is Urizen, and the human half is V.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, and Urizen got the power that he wanted because he thought that's what he thought if he literally shed his humanity, he could gain the power that he had always sought. Blah blah blah. And V was falling apart because he didn't. The Urizen took all the power with him. And so V is like literally decaying as the game goes on. And so he finally gets up to him.
They say pretty explicitly throughout the story too.
Oh yeah, he regularly will like take a knee for a second and then they're like, "Are you okay?" He's like, "I'm fine." He doesn't talk like that, but
he's like, "I'm great."
He's like, "I'm fine." And then I'm gonna read I can't remember the poet's name. Whoever's poetry.
Oh yeah, he's carrying around a book the whole time, and he's like reading poetry.
Yeah, and he'll drop a line, and it's clear that he's just reading one of the poems. Yeah,
that's another moment where I was like, oh, this game knows how silly it is.
Oh
like,
yeah,
come on.
V is an edgy nerd.
Yeah,
he is not cool.
No, not at all. Yeah. And like I kind of love that you don't know if V is a good or a bad guy. And maybe everybody did if you've played other Devil May Cry games, but like
yeah, he showed up, I'm like, that guy's Virgil.
Yeah. Who's Virgil's always a bad guy, right? Is that his thing?
Yeah, kinda. Like it's more of like him and Dante are on very different paths, and he gets tricked in Devil May Cry 3. He is not present in Devil May Cry 4 at all, other than in the special edition for you to play as him. But he's not like in the game by any means. There's hints about the Nero Virgil connection because when Nero gets his devil trigger in that game, he doesn't turn into a demon. He gets like a demon stand thing that goes behind him that looks a lot like Virgil's devil trigger, and it uses the Yamato sword. So it was like, oh, there's probably something to that. But,
I see.
Yeah.
But you were like, oh, if this guy's Virgil, he's not a good guy.
Right. I'm playing as him, and then I'll eventually get to play as Virgil when they release the special edition, because that's what they did for the last two, and everybody wants to play as Virgil, and also that guy's Virgil, so he's definitely going to be in this game.
Wow, I didn't know that. I even knew, like, I got this game on sale, and it came with, like, all of the special edition perks and everything, and it was, like, playable character Virgil, and I was like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah.
But I'm sure it's cool.
Yes. So, yeah.
So basically, there's that, and then Nero, you're like, oh, it's Virgil again, and then you're like, oh, Dante's got to fight Virgil again. It's big and epic, but then Nero comes out of nowhere. He's big demon guy. He's all blue and glowy, and he's cool.
Yeah, because right before this, Dante had told Nero that Virgil's his dad, and Nero's like, what? And then Dante's like, I can't have you kill your dad, which is why I'm going to go, and he throws a short sword on his shoulder, and is like, all right, that's why I'm going to go beat him up.
Yep.
So then they go and they have a fight, and Nero has an emotional moment where he calls his girlfriend and is like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to come home. And then he's like, I can't have these guys fight anymore. I'm not going to let anybody else die because I wasn't strong enough. And he talks about Credo, a character from the last game who was somebody who he had grown up with, but that order was trying to basically turn people into demons or demon hybrid things. And so he ended up on the other side of the fight with Credo, and Credo died. So... blah 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 character thing. So he gets his moments where he's running up the side of the tree, and then his arm grows back.
Yeah,
like it breaks the devil breaker off the spot where it is and grows a new arm there. And then it's clear that he has the Devil Bringer powers back because he gets his like blue stand grabby thing back and also the cool wings. So, and then you technically get an introduction to how super costumes work for when you actually get to this fight because he jumps in between Dante and Virgil and punches Dante basically out cold with his demon arm thing. And then Virgil's
Coolest
like,
moment.
yeah, it's great. And then Virgil looks at Dante and he goes, hey, if Nero beat you and I beat Nero, then technically I beat you, right? And Dante just goes, yeah, sure, whatever, man. I'm going to basically take a nap. And then it just falls over. So then Nero gets to have his moment where he's like, all right, well, dad just came back from the dead or whatever, I guess. And I didn't know who he was until just now. But also, I'm going to beat his face in because dad's a butthole. Kind of
And then you
sucks.
do, and it's great.
Yeah, and I can't say it because we're trying to keep the stream for us clean at least. But
Appropriate.
I don't know if you knew this, but the way that that mission works is it has dynamic audio where it plays a very soft whatever it is, as long as you don't hit the double trigger button. And then when you hit the double trigger button, he raises the middle finger and drops the F-bomb to Virgil, and then the actual song for the level kicks in from that moment. I don't know if you
Wow.
realized that.
I think I realized I remember him giving him the bird, but I didn't remember. I didn't know that there was like a whole choreographed thing that I missed out on.
Yeah,
That's neat.
it's really wonderful. Yes, and he gets to have some words in the middle of the fight, and then he ends up beating Virgil, and then Dante and Virgil go, all right, so we're gonna go cut the roots of this big old tree down in the demon world, and then Nero's like, but you can't come back. And Dante literally says, it's because you're here that we can go. Because he also just bopped both of them. So they're like, all right, well,
Right.
if stuff happens up here, you got it. So we'll see you later. So then they
Yeah.
dive down literally to hell and cut the roots of the Clythoth tree. And everyone's like, and blah, blah, blah. We got to clean up whatever demons are left. But the danger is basically over. And then Dante and Virgil fight in hell forever. Or something.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, and the jackpot shot at the end. You don't know why the jackpot line, like he says, "Don't you dare say it," because that was like the line that they would say to each other as kids, and they use it in 3 when they take down the bad guy together at one point. So he does the jackpot thing, and that shot and that line is so good because it's just them surrounded by the demons closing in, and Virgil with the sword up and Dante with the guns aimed at the camera. It's really good.
Nice.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah, I really personally liked Nero's whole thing at the end. Like, and again, you have a little bit more history with that character, but I thought he was cool. When he started the game, I felt like I didn't know as much about him as like a leading protagonist, but I feel like by the end that moment where he grows into kicking Dante and Virgil's butts was like really cool, and I was way into it.
Yeah, it's really good. Nero doesn't ever feel like he got like a random power up so that he could play with the big boys. He feels like he actually earned where he got to
Yeah.
by having
Yeah.
actual loss and struggle multiple times over the course of the game, and then finally gives in to the emotion and just like, you know what? I'm just gonna do what I want to do instead. And then
Yeah.
proves Dad and Uncle Dante that he can take care of stuff, even if that wasn't his intent. But yeah. It's
Yeah.
great.
He's awesome.
It's really good.
I like Nero.
Yeah, Nero's character wasn't like horrible in 4, I don't think, but it was very kind of nothing. And he is a
Yeah.
great character in 5. They like really
Yeah.
redeemed him. So yeah,
Nice.
it's wonderful.
And then you beat it, credits roll, and they're like, "Hey, why don't you do it again, but for more points?" And
Yeah,
you're like,
on
"Okay,
a
I
higher
will."
difficulty. And unlock
All right.
more of the moves, and then you go, well, of course I'm going to do that because this game's great. It feels really good to play. And spoiler alert, the most fun you'll have in this game is on all of the replays because you will just
Yeah.
get more stuff and get better at the combat. And whether or not you go up a difficulty level does not matter because that will still be true, even if you're
Yeah.
very slowly progressing.
So I'll say this. So I played this obviously last October, and in prepping for our episode, I did a replay through Virgil, or at least I did some of a replay through
Mm,
Virgil. And I think this is where I rubbed up against the game a little bit. At least in terms of how much I love it versus you love it.
mm,
I really like this game. I think I'm just not as into that loop of the score chase and the replay. But actually, no, I retract that because I think I might be incorrect about that. I think I should have done the difficulty again on easy to internalize the mechanics because uh I still think there's just part of me that like can't wrap my head around some of the mechanics. A because there's just so much, but like B because this game plays pretty uniquely.
mm.
Um in particular the bosses. I think the point where I was like, "All right, I'm done with this Virgil playthrough." Was the worm boss, which is pretty early. It's like one of V's bosses. But I was just like,
Yeah.
I can't wrap my head around when I'm supposed to dodge and when I'm supposed to attack, and I got real frustrated.
Mm. Yeah. So for me, because I have been so in love with this combat system for so long, I'm not like a super good player. Like I'm definitely not. Like I've never beaten a Dante Must Die mode in a game without cheating to get the super costumes and then use the super costume, which gives you like regenerating double trigger, like auto regenerating double trigger, and a whole bunch of other
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, never done that because those modes are very hard. These games are extremely difficult on the high difficulties.
Okay, then that makes me feel a little bit better because
Yeah,
I was playing. I think Virgil auto sets you to hard mode. I don't think you can play on normal as him.
you
Maybe I'm wrong
you
about that.
can, but I think it defaults to Son of Sparta. Yeah, which is the one
Yeah.
up from the default. Which you can, yeah, you can't place. I actually thought it was a little odd, was that you can't actually start the game on hard mode. You have to play
Yeah.
it on normal to unlock hard in Dante Must Die. You have to like work your way up, which I thought was a little weird because previously
Yeah.
you would just. I don't think you started the game with Dante Must Die in the old ones, but you at least had more.
Yeah.
Because in this one you get
So
easy and you get normal, and that's it. Nothing else.
yeah. So maybe I retract it. Maybe it's less that it's not as much my thing, but maybe the plan is to go back and do another easy run with the main three characters or with Virgil just to get a sense cuz like especially in Son of Sparta, like the enemies are spongy. They have a ton of health. Um
Oh yeah,
and
because you're
especially
used
the
to seeing them on easy. Because yeah, that's I'm way
yeah.
more used to enemies having that level of health in a Devil May Cry game in general. That's
Yeah.
just how they are. Yeah.
They have a ton of health and they hit hard, especially the bosses.
Oh yeah.
Um Yeah, I don't know. Talk to me about the bosses because I swear, like some of the bosses, I was like, I just really can't get a handle on how I'm supposed to deal with their attacks and like get the rhythm of when I'm supposed to hurt them, especially because like I feel like this game doesn't have that much mobility. Like you do have kind of a traditional dodge roll when you're locked on, but like I felt like couldn't get grips on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm gonna disagree with you on the mobility thing, and I think that's
No, I don't want you to I want you to disagree cuz I'm like I feel like I am probably wrong about it and you have a better handle on like what I'm supposed to do. So tell me.
yeah. That's where we're gonna get there. Yeah. So I guess starting with the mobility thing, we'll even go with Goliath, the first boss who we saw get stabbed in the head earlier. He's a big boy,
Yep.
and you fight him as Nero, and you will eventually technically fight him as V in the like Spectre fight thing.
Mhm.
But as Nero, Nero can unlock a double jump, but he also has the Devil Breaker or Bringer. Because if we're talking new game plus, basically, you have the arm that will always let you have a grab. You can always have a grab with the Devil Breaker, and when you use that on a big enemy, it launches you towards him. If you are constantly enemy stepping and doing that, you can just stay in the air the whole fight, and it dramatically changes how you deal with big enemies.
Okay, so
You
for like a
have
big boss like
options.
that, you
You
want to be more
usually want to
aerial?
be up in his maw because he's going to move a bunch, and you being on the ground, he's probably going to hit you with some big sweeping attack. You can go over their head. You can avoid attacks that way too. The
Okay.
dodge roll itself, don't think about it like I don't think about it like a traditional dodge roll at all. It is a quick move that gets you from one spot to another very quickly. It does not have like dodge roll iframes or anything like that. If you get hit in the middle of a dodge, you get hit. That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause like, that was one thing too that I felt like I couldn't get a handle on is I felt like I wanted to lock on to the enemies just about all of the time, and I think after playing a little bit more, I was like, I don't think that's how you're supposed to play all of the time, cause the mobility doesn't come from the dodging, it comes from actually moving around the space.
Yes. Your
Yeah.
your attacks and your commands will move you more than pretty much anything else. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
And I
think
also
I think
felt
part
like
of it is just your level of experience with the game versus me. I've been playing them for a long time, so it's not. I don't think it's an expectation that you're supposed to figure that out in like two playthroughs and be like, oh, now I'm good at the game. But like,
yeah,
there's so many mechanics and specifics to everything that it does not require you to engage with all of them on the lower difficulties to beat the game. It
right.
does require you to not only understand them on the higher difficulties, but on like the highest difficulties, you have to have them mastered. There is
Right.
a difficulty in this game that so after Dante Must Die, you unlock Heaven or Hell, which was introduced I think in Devil May Cry 3 Special Edition, where everything dies with one hit, including you.
Oh, whoa.
And then there is Hell or Hell, which is you still die in one hit, but everything else is either hard mode or Dante Must Die. So you have to play that mode perfectly. You cannot get hit. You can't.
That's insane.
Yep. Because if you get hit, you die. That is a difficulty mode built into the game. So just to give you and people play that mode for fun. And they'll
That's
and
crazy.
they'll and they'll S rank it too.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and that's, I feel like, again, like, as someone who's not as experienced with these games, that's like the thing that as I went back to do more playthroughs and continue to play throughs, I was like, man, I feel like I need to take a lot more time to really understand and come to grips with how these games play before I move to the harder difficulties.
Yeah, agreed. You
Yeah.
should do another human playthrough of
Yeah.
probably both playthroughs. And
Yeah.
then when you feel like you're more comfortable, go up to Devil Hunter. Because I think Devil Hunter, as someone who hadn't played a Devil May Cry game in a while, like that mode was not like easy to beat. Like I struggled with getting back into the game a little bit on Devil Hunter as somebody who had played the games previously. So
Yeah.
it is a challenge, but not in like a not overcomable way. It's still very fair. Son of Sparta, I feel like, is also the same thing once you finally like feel comfortable with the game. But anything above that is for the people who are just like crazy good at the game and are like, yeah, I'm just gonna destroy this game and break it over my knee, which I am not that good. I think I'm probably
Yeah.
better than an average player, but nowhere near those guys who played those games on Dante Must Die and those crazy difficulties.
Yeah, it's really, there's so much at your disposal. Like, even just take for example when I was playing through with Virgil, I was like, all right, let me see if I can find like one or two things to add to my vocabulary of how I'm dealing with enemies. And
Hmm.
like, one thing I didn't use that much in the easy mode was like the tap backwards forwards and then hit the melee attack, which
Hmm.
usually does like a shootout, like a big wave type thing.
Hmm.
And Virgil's version of that, at least with his blue glowy sword, which was the one I was playing with mostly.
Hmm.
That's like such a powerful move. So I was like, all right, cool. Like just mastering that move and adding it to my vocabulary of what I'm doing helps me deal with enemies in a better way. So like there's so many like little things to wrap your head around and add to what you're doing,
Yes.
which helps a lot too. Just like being willing to experiment and like try a couple little things to make the experience more fun.
That's why I think just playing the game, like there is literally, they call it the void. There is basically the lab where you can spawn enemies and just do whatever and have the command show up on screen kind of thing. It's like a training mode for a fighting game, which is again another. I think all action games with combat systems should have a mode like this.
Yeah.
Literally all of them.
Yeah.
But in terms
Especially
of
if they have this level of complexity.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of figuring out like how to deal with different situations better, I still think just playing through the game, because
Yeah.
it will throw specific situations at you and enemy types where you're like, how do I deal with this? What is the best thing that my character has in his kit to deal with this? Because there are answers for all of those things, and you don't
Yeah. I
necessarily like
think
have to figure them out, but like once you see how all the pieces start to fit together, you go like, oh, oh, I can do that, and that's actually not even that hard to pull off. But I didn't even consider trying it until now.
Yeah, and I think that was maybe the best strength about playing Virgil's mode was I was like, "Oh, cool. I love that I'm just getting to wrap my head around one character because again, like it's just there's so much to learn uh at every turn of this game."
Yeah, and I don't. This might sound reductive because it's going to make it sound actually way simpler than it really is. But you put together that like basically all the sets of commands for each character
Are
are
very
yeah,
similar. Yeah.
you're going to get a lock onto an enemy, hold forward, and hit the melee button to do some sort of dashing attack.
Yes.
Streak for
Yep.
Nero, Stinger for Dante. The reason why any attack like that is referred to as a stinger by some people is because Devil May Cry invented it, basically. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yep.
not the
Yeah.
first time someone's rushed at a man to stab him with a sword, but the command to just go "Rah!" very
Yep.
quickly and do a lot of damage. Yeah, it's a stinger.
Yep, but that is sort of the like you're saying, that's sort of the brilliant neat thing about this game is by learning one character, you are learning all of the characters a little bit better even though they have different strengths and like specific nuances to their builds and stuff.
Yeah, but like the back forward whatever it is, like all those moves, some of those are pretty dramatically different between the characters. It's not like oh they all move the same. It's they all move very differently. Like a game like this, you could subtly tweak any character and then hand the controller to somebody who's been playing it for a while, and they'll be like, "That feels wrong.
Yep.
That feels really wrong." So all of the characters have to be very distinctly different, and because I think they all fit a kind of unique place in combat, and their encounters, generally speaking, are structured to like fit what their character is good at. You're not like actively put at a major disadvantage all the time.
Yeah.
Nero being able to crowd control by grabbing enemies or launching himself towards them. V basically, like you said, he's almost like a range character sometimes because you can theoretically just get Phantom and Griffin just like right up in someone's face and just be way the heck on the other side of the room while they're beating
Yeah.
him up. So, and then Dante just has so many things at his disposal that
Yeah.
there's pretty much no situation that he doesn't have like multiple good answers to. It's just figuring out what those are and what's the easiest to get to and blah blah blah. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
Yeah, dude. Do you want to talk a little bit about your how much you love the score chase replay thing? Because before we started recording, you were gushing about it, but you also wanted to share something fun.
Oh yeah. So it just in the like how much did I enjoy replaying this game. So I think for me it's less the score chasing and just more like the when you do something in this game and you like complete a crazy encounter or you do some crazy combo string that you didn't know was a thing that you could do and you manage to do it and it wipes the whole room. And you're like, I didn't even think I did that on purpose, but it just you're always just like, yeah. Yeah, that
Yeah.
feels really, 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 really good. So the constant like being able to like the ceiling, like as you said, it's so high, it's so crazy, unbelievably high that like
Yeah.
I've been playing these games for a long time and I'm nowhere near what that could be. So even subtle increases at this point like are like, yeah, cool, it's great, it's really good. Like, you know, I've managed to pull off in a very specific situation, like against like a big dude, like I think is about to show up on screen right now. Yeah, some stationary big thing that like enemy step off the guy's head, do the attack, then just alternate between those two really quickly because the game you're close enough to do both, so you can just do super fast inputs and do that attack like 10 times in a couple seconds. I've done that before. You
Yeah.
know, I've tried it. I don't
Yeah.
use it in every encounter, you know, because I'm not that
Yeah.
kind of good. But so it's really just that, and because there is pretty much no limit to what you can do with these characters, in the grand scheme of things, their move sets are not as crazy as like trying to learn a fighting game characters who has way more moves even in like a not great fighting game. But it's yeah, I don't know. It just feels great to play literally all the time to the point where in preparing for this, because I hadn't played this game in I don't remember how long at that point. Andy, if you had to guess, let me see what Steam said I put into this in the last 2 weeks. Come on, Steam. Please hold, everyone. Nope, that's just my total playtime. Played this game for 80.6 hours on Steam in
That's
the
wild.
last 5 years.
For like an 8-hour game too.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome.
That wasn't what I was trying to look up. I was trying to see. 'Cause it normally tells you how much you played it like the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Probably at least 10 hours, 10 to 20.
I think it's probably been like 20. I just wanted to
That's
get the number.
crazy.
Anyway, whatever. I can't prove it, but regardless, yeah, I played through it on Devil Hunter because I just wanted to get back into it on a normal playthrough, and then I played on Son of Sparta as Virgil, so I got 2 playthroughs there, and then I played
Nice.
another time through on Son of Sparta with the regular playthrough. We're playing as Nero, V, and Dante, and right before we got on this call, I was more than halfway through playing the regular characters, but with the super costumes. That
Nice.
I downloaded a game save for. I didn't unlock them because you have to beat Dante Must Die. I'm not that good. I downloaded a game save so I could have all the stuff. I don't care.
That's fine.
Yeah. So I did that, and I got to mission 12 right before we got on this call. So I played the game
Awesome.
like 3.5 times, more than 3.5 times, in the last couple weeks, just because it's fun. That's it. That's the only reason why.
Because it's great.
Yeah, because it's
It's
really good.
unbelievably good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I love the mentality that they remove all of the friction to replaying it as well. It's just like skip all the cutscenes, fight all the guys, do all the fun stuff. Like I don't know, like again, we live in a world where every game wants to be a 200-hour RPG with tons of things to find, or even like an 80-hour, but it's like why not be a game that's 8 hours but that is so good that you will play it for 80 hours. I feel like that is like maybe more valuable. Like I'd rather have a game that's short and infinitely fun than a game that's like really long but bloated and exhausting at a
I'm
certain point.
yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm surprised that before this last couple weeks that I didn't already have over 100 hours in this game. That's just the
Yeah,
level in which I enjoy it. So yeah.
yeah. It's like really it's just truly a great game. Like if you've never played Devil May Cry, you should do what I did and give it a shot, and I'm definitely going to replay it more. I've just been in the throes of Monster Hunter, which I won't get into on the
Oh
the
my god.
stream.
Is
But
that gonna be the game Andy makes Tommy play so that we can talk about it on this podcast? Because I'll love it.
I wouldn't ask anybody to play Monster Hunter because A, I don't confidently know that anybody will love it, but B, if you do like
I
B,
own World. I should try it again. You know.
it's it's great. It's a lot like Devil May Cry in that there's like a ton of stuff to just learn and wrap your head around what the mechanics are. But like C, if you do love it like I do, it will destroy your life and your family and your children. Like it is just so it becomes all you want to do. Like and I'd be like, I'm playing Devil May Cry. It's really great, but it's just been a Monster Hunter couple of weeks for me in a big way.
That's fair. I mean, you
And
and a
like I
lot of other
can't
people. So
Yeah, I can't. Right, it's had a resurgence, but I can't. I couldn't wrap my head around both in the time that I wanted to, but I'm like, all right, once Monster Hunter chills out for me a little bit, like I need to give this game its due for sure and really go through and learn it because I suspect that I'm gonna fall down the rabbit hole in the way that you have. I just haven't internalized it that well yet.
You're gonna have a moment where the combat clicks with you, like, and you're in that exact moment. You're gonna do something that you hadn't done before, and it's gonna feel way better. Oh, hi.
Hi, it's my wife. She's
Yeah,
interrupting my
that's okay.
podcast.
She's allowed to interrupt.
Miss you. So
Oh,
Aw.
this is the sweetest thing that will
Aw.
ever happen in our recording. While Nero is getting beaten up by a horrifying
By
demon.
Baphomet. Yeah.
Okay, I'll miss you.
I agree. I think you're going to have that moment where you click and you're literally going to, from that click moment, the next 15 seconds, you're going to do like 3 things that you didn't even realize that you were capable of doing previously. And you'll be like, oh, I got it now. I get it.
Yeah. Even just watching the stream as we record, I'm like, oh, I just want to play this game. It looks so cool.
That's
I
the
love
thing.
it.
That's what I mean. It's I'm sitting here going like we could not be recording this and I could just be streaming it. I could do that, I guess. I'm not going to do
Yeah.
that. I would rather probably just play it at that point. But anyway,
I mean, again, if you're watching this, if you're seeing the footage that we are playing as we do this episode, like, and you're like, oh, that looks awesome. It is awesome. Go play it.
yes.
Do it now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. This game feels as good and cool as it looks. Like that's just the only way to describe it. So if you're watching what's happening on screen right now going, I want to do that. Yeah, just play this. Cuz you're not going to look like that immediately, but that's fine. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Dang, dude. Well, man, this has been it's honestly just made me more hyped to play this game more. This has been such a fun romp through Devil May Cry land.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring this back to more games for you to play eventually. I mentioned in the beginning that I think you should play Devil May Cry 3.
Yeah, where can I get it? Is it as good as this one?
It is. I would say that the 2 best ones are 3 and 5 for sure. I think 5 is so overflowing with quality that it's hard to say that 3 is like as good, but also like 3 is what made this genre and style of action game what it is. So it does playing Dante does fundamentally feel like playing Dante in this game.
Cool. Yeah, man. Maybe I'll run through and give it a shot at some point. I feel like that would be a fun. I like one of the things I've become obsessed with also in recent years is like going back and playing old games in a franchise that I think are cool. So I don't know. I think I may enjoy that if it's available on
It's a
PlayStation. It's available on the Switch.
Yeah, here's the thing. This is the fun part. I own the Devil May Cry 3 Switch version because of the official releases of the game. It is the only one that has officially implemented a mode where they bring in the style switching and extra weapons because it's newer hardware than the PS2 was. So it's a remastered version of the game that gives you the options that you do in 5 in an official release of the game without PC mods. So, if you want both a potentially portable version of Devil May Cry that plays more like 5 does because of the extra options you have, but with 3, it's still just Devil May Cry 3. Yeah, I'm going to recommend that you pick up the Switch version specifically.
That's awesome.
Yes, it's really good.
I'm going to. I just don't know when.
You should do it right now so you feel pressured to play it.
My Switch is too far away.
That's not true.
Yeah, it is. It's in the other room.
You have a phone. You can buy games online on your phone.
I'm not gonna do that.
Got any games on your phone?
I'm not gonna.
He said, I'm not going to. That's ridiculous. Why would I do that? Yeah, you can sign into the eShop from your phone and just do it right now and download it.
Yeah, but I'm not going to.
He goes, no, I'm going to go on Amazon and buy a physical version. I don't know if they, I don't even know if they have one, to be honest.
Yeah, no, that's cool, man. We'll definitely have to revisit it at some point on Cryptic Puzzle.
on. Oh yeah, that's right. That's the name of the show.
Yeah.
Um,
Um,
are we
don't
gonna?
me at the same time that
Oh, but I didn't know that you were gonna, and
He knew.
I.
He
But
knew. Don't you lie to me.
I.
I knew you
Mm,
knew. Hey, forget about it. Forget
hey,
about what? I already forgot about it.
has that ever happened to you?
Is it?
Um, do we want
Wait, I'm
to?
reading your mind. You were gonna ask. I know what you're gonna say. You're gonna say, "Do we want to speculate about what the next game is gonna be?"
Yes, because we haven't really. Well, I guess we did kind of talk about it, but the
No,
only
did we?
the only other one that we brought up that we will be doing eventually will be a time commitment.
It's not that much of a time commitment.
Are
Is
we
it
thinking
the one
about the
I'm
same
thinking
game?
it is?
Yeah, I guess that's the question. Are you going to
It,
say the thing that the podcast is namesaked by? I don't think that's a sentence, but whatever. I said it.
let's say it at the same time. 3, 2,
2, 1.
1.
Bubsy 3D.
Pokemon Heart Gold.
I'm,
Bubsy
I'm
3D.
glad. I'm glad we both were like, we know he's not going to say it, so I'm not going to say it.
Yeah. It's Nier
It's
Automata.
Near Automata. Yeah, that's the one. That's not
Well,
a confirmation. It's just it is the namesake of the podcast because it is from the opening lines of one of our protagonists in that game. And it's the hardest opening to any video game ever in terms of a dialogue line, as far as I'm concerned. There's some good ones out
yeah.
there. That one's by far my favorite, though.
Yeah, that game's unbelievable. Well, here's the thing. It doesn't have to be that. That's definitely the one of the ones for certain that
At
we've been
some
like,
point, yeah.
yeah. We also, if we're just tossing around games we need to talk about, we definitely need to talk about Elden Ring at some point, which
Oh, yeah.
that's actually probably
The
the reason
DLC's
that
coming
we
out soon, I'm pretty sure.
Oh my
It's not
god.
confirmed, but people have been speculating February, which would
Oh
also
boy.
coincide
February
with the 2 year anniversary of the release.
for the
So
drop or for the announcement?
for the drop.
Oh, they think it's going to come out in
Well,
February.
they talked about it a while ago, and also like a patch that was like 6 MB got pushed, and then unnamed DLC entries are in like the Steam database that people are scraping. So people are like, it's coming. It's soon.
Oh, what is it going to be?
Shadow of the Erd Tree. That's what it's called. That's
Oh,
all
you
we
already
know.
know?
That's literally all we know.
Oh, we do know a name though.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
that's
they
neat.
they announced the name of it and that they were working on it.
Wow.
That was it. They didn't say like when. They were just like, yes, we are working on Elden Ring DLC. Here is a key art for it. Also, it's called Shadow of the Erd Tree. Thank
All right,
you.
so while we're tossing around more 100-hour time investments,
I will
what else I'd
gladly
like
put 600 more hours into Elden Ring, Andy.
I know you will. What other, if we're just speculating, what other ones do we definitely want to do at some point besides Nier Automata and Elden Ring?
So
Are there any other immediately that like come to mind?
that's what I'm wondering. So Sea of Stars, we both played because we were both gonna like it, and it's a new game. This is a
Yeah.
game that I played when it came out and was unbelievably hyped for, and then you played
Yeah.
later on, and just so happened to be that we both really liked it. Is there going to be a theme for how we pick these things? Is it like, do I need to play a game that you really like now and that I've never played before?
I think we don't have to do that. But
But that might get the brain juices going, you know?
I might get those brongle
Those
juices going.
those brangle juices.
Get 'em flowing a little bit. I mean, look, man, with the I feel like with the two of us as how we are as people, that's bound to happen at some point because how many games has that already happened to the both of us where it's like, "Oh, I played a game and you love it," and vice versa? I don't know if we need an explicit list or if we have to do it, but like how many games have we yelled at each other like you have to play this game?
Yeah, the problem
Do
is
it.
every single one of those is like a 100-hour RPG. And we're like,
That's not true. You said Devil May Cry 3. That's probably not a 100-hour RPG.
that's true. Do you want to do another Devil May Cry episode, though? I guess that's the
Yeah,
question.
eventually.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, the other one I've yelled at you about is Hollow Knight, and that's not a 100-hour RPG.
Oh, yeah, but to play like all of it, though? Like
All of it,
all of
you're
it, all of it.
talking all of it, you're talking max 40 hours. Max. That's like the max you're gonna peak in that game
Are
if
you
you do
sure? I feel like
everything.
that game's longer than that. I'm gonna look up it on the bastion of the internet on how long to beat video games, howlongtobeat.com.
Let's see it.
Let's see what it
I mean, you
says.
gotta love how long to beat.
Okay, no, you're spot on with that. It
Yeah,
says 27
it's
hours for main story, 41 and a half for main and extra, and then 63 hours for total completionist, which is not me because I know what completionist really means in that game. It means you have to go do the crazy boss rush thing that's a nightmare that I
it's
have no interest in doing.
yeah, that game's 100% completion, I think is considered like 110% because there's that, and I don't know why that's the case, but there's actually so
I
much,
think it's the DLC
so much.
stuff, probably.
I think that's why,
Yeah.
yeah.
Like there was
But
originally
yeah,
100%, then they added more stuff, so more than 100
yeah, but
now.
no, I mean that game's like a big game in terms of a Metroidvania, but it's not insanely long. I mean, you could probably beat it like 20 hours easy, honestly.
I think
Um,
I think the thing is I would want to probably invest all the time. By the time I get that far into playing that game, I'm gonna want to like play all of it, I'm sure. And the thing with this game is we both already know that I like it because I have played some of Hollow Knight,
oh, it's amazing.
just not much more than like the first hour and a half, which I've started like
Yeah.
3 different times because I keep doing that going, wow, this game's really cool, and then I put it down for like 2 years, and then I go, all right, I'm gonna play Hollow Knight. I mean, I only play like an hour. I'll just start from the beginning. Oh, he's gonna do the
Yeah.
Virgil thing. There we go.
But I guess all of that is to say that no, I don't think it's necessarily a list of 100-hour RPGs that we both love
Yeah,
across the board.
yeah. I mean, I know we're having this basically live on air right now, and for everyone to listen to after the fact. But I just wanted to wonder
To
if
throw
anyone other than us is listening, which I know is extremely unlikely. But if you have thoughts on what it is we should do to theme it, send it to Andy.
Yeah, you're going to want to get a carrier pigeon and
Yeah.
wrap a small note around his left leg
Yep.
uh, and send the carrier pigeon to crypticpuzzlepod@gmail.com.
Oh yeah.
Make sure your
Oh
pigeon
yeah.
knows how to type on a computer.
Yeah. Like actually, the piece of paper wasn't important. It was like for thematic reasons. He still needs
It's
to know.
for
He needs to know the English alphabet and how to type.
Yeah, it's for aesthetic reasons. You have to make sure his English is up to par
Yeah.
before he. This is horrible.
You can't just send people messages in languages they don't understand, Andy.
Yeah, right.
You know that,
But
because
yeah.
that would be a cryptic puzzle.
Oh my god. But yes, if you have thoughts or suggestions, I guess that was a long way of us saying we don't know what the episode next is going to be. Near Automata is definitely on the list.
It's probably that.
But also too, if you are listening, please like subscribe and follow our podcast and our YouTube channel and stuff. But like these are not necessarily like a weekly, monthly. We're gonna do them when we do them, which will be semi-regularly, but it'll be when we are inspired and excited to talk about a game,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds
I
fun.
feel like I wanna try and do it somewhat often just to keep us like in the maybe not
Oh
necessarily
yeah.
a habit of doing it, but yeah, if you
No, I think I would say like we're definitely gonna do it regularly, but I wouldn't be like
yeah, it's not like this is a
I
monthly podcast. It comes out on the first.
right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's not
monthly
doing
would
that.
be like a great monthly would be a great goal for us. I think it depends on like what games we're playing and when they line up and when we're excited to talk about them, you
Yeah,
know?
I agree. So yeah, because
Yeah.
if it is near Automata, I don't remember how long that game took me, but I'm probably gonna spend about like at least 40 hours with it before. Like that's just
It's
a
a
number that's in my head for some reason, and I cannot give you a good reason why. But I'm like 40 hours seems about right for some reason.
Yeah, I've beaten that game through. I haven't beaten it all the way through both times, but the first time it took me about 40 hours on the dot, and I was not a completionist, but I was pretty like, let's get invested in the world and do every side quest and do. So I
There's a
would say
lot of stuff
40
in that
hours.
game, yeah. So
Yeah, that I would say again, it probably tops out at 40 hours. You could probably get there in less than that if you were determined, but like the whole fun of that game is really like taking your time and soaking it in, you know?
I'm trying to figure out honestly if I want to new game that or if I want to just go back through all the missions like with the save that I currently have. You know,
You can do like mission by mission in that game.
there's like a
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, there's like a chapter select or something like that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love that game so much that when we do it, I'm just gonna straight up do it all from the beginning
Yeah,
again.
as much as I really enjoy the combat and everything, like I already probably am fine with how I'm kitted out, and most of the reason why I'm going to replay that game isn't because the combat's really good, because it is. It's because it's a game about robots learning how to love or something like that. That's a really bad way to describe it, but like it's really, oh man, it hits me in the gut on multiple different levels, and it gets really existential and it gets really weird.
I'm pumped to talk about it at
Y-
some point.
yeah, it's man, there's gonna be so much stuff in that game that's gonna happen that I like forgot about, and I'm gonna be like, no, why?
Yeah. All right, before we get too deep into Near Automata, let's wrap this stream up.
Yeah, there's a man on the screen. If you're watching, he's fighting a demon man with other demons. We talked about this game for how long now? Like an hour and a half or something. And
Almost an hour and 3/4.
yeah, play Devil May Cry 5 if you like action games even a little bit. It's pretty much like at least top 5 all time. Pretty much agreed upon by a lot of people that it's at least up there. So yeah, you can find it on I think pretty much everything. The special edition you can only find on like the current generation of consoles. There isn't a special edition for PC, which is weird.
Hmm.
They
Odd.
released Virgil, but there is no you get like legendary Dark Knight difficulty or something like that. Which
Neat.
is a lot of enemies meant for Virgil to chop up with his big super moves. But anyway, we didn't even talk about Virgil's mechanics even once. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not much to say except they're really cool. Go play it. Go do
Yeah,
it.
it's really cool. Virgil plays similar to how he did in both 3 and 4 special edition, except even more better because that's what this game is. It's even more better action. Play it.
Yeah.
Play it on your console or computer of choice. Now,
Yeah.
I demand it.
So if you enjoyed this, follow our YouTube, follow our podcast on Spotify. You can also follow the Twitch streams at Pharmacokinetic, which will be linked somewhere if you want to watch them live. I doubt there's anybody who's listening to these live. This is probably more a listen in the background kind of deal. But
I want to go look at my chat and see somebody prove me wrong right now, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's okay. That wasn't why we did this. So,
Right. But if you enjoyed this, thank you for listening and look forward to the next one whenever or whatever it is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think I'm going to stop the stream now. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Tell us your reason for listening in the
I can't believe I'm going to let you end on that.